Battery degradation, a very popular topic among EV owners, as it's about the only real downside of owning an electric vehicle versus an ICE car, as well, over time your gas tank doesn't shrink, whereas your usable battery capacity does. This is a Model 3 Performance that I've put over 20,000 miles on and have owned for almost 2 years. And while it is different in a lot of ways to my legacy Model 3 Performance, one of the ways that it's not is the battery. They share the same battery, however, I charge the two very differently. This one was charged to Tesla's own recommended 80% daily, whereas my other one, I went off of my own calculation, which landed me at about a 50% daily charge limit. And I'll talk about my own calculation and how you can find yours as well.
All right, so I just got back from driving around in literal circles. I'm currently at 5%. I do recommend, if you're gonna do this test, to run your car down, because if you don't know, while this test will decharge your battery on its own, it does that by running the motors and exhausting heat. So if you're at like a high state of charge, your garage or wherever you have it parked, assuming it's inside, will just become a sauna. And it's also really loud, so if you are going to do it outside, yeah, I would recommend running it down. So right now we're at 5%, which is estimating 15 miles. Now it's no longer in service mode. It is actually just under the service tab. So service tab, battery health. And as you can see here, it said my recent test was ran on April 3rd. The results are valid for up to 6 months, at which point you can rerun the test. You need to stay connected to an AC charger for up to 17 hours. So you'll see here, ready to begin test. Vehicle is in park. You actually do need to be at 20% or less, but I would recommend really bringing it down to as close to 0 as possible. Vehicle is connected to the internet, which is also true. No software updates are scheduled. No battery or thermal alerts are active. Vehicle is connected to an AC charging station, and AC charging equipment can provide at least 5 kilowatts of power, which, if you're on a level 1 charger, means that you just straight up can't do this. Avoid interacting with your vehicle or the Tesla app during the test. You can cancel the test at any time on the vehicle's touchscreen or Tesla app. If a test fails or is canceled, your vehicle will attempt to charge to the set limit. So I'm gonna go ahead and start test. 17 hours remaining.
So while this test is running, let's discuss and compare the two most popular battery types that are currently being used, at least in the US, along with how to figure out which one you have or which one that the car you're looking at buying has, what not to do for long-term battery health and degradation, how to figure out what your own optimal daily state of charge should be, and a recap of my old Performance, which was being charged to 50% versus my current one, which is being daily charged to 80%. LFP, or lithium iron phosphate, uses iron and phosphate in the cathode. This makes for a very stable, cheap, and long-lasting chemistry versus NMC, which uses nickel, magnesium, cobalt, and focuses on packing more energy into less space, less weight. Thus, you're going to get better range and performance. There are pros and cons to both. One isn't necessarily better than the other one. It kind of just depends on what you're wanting to get. If you're wanting the most affordable, lowest barrier to entry in terms of price, EV, LFP. There's also the whole, like, you don't got to be as anal about not charging to 100%, which we'll talk about here in just a second, versus if you're wanting a longer range, more premium, potentially even performance, you're doing a lot of road tripping, you want the best charging speeds, you'll probably end up with an NMC pack. LFP has been improving, especially on the energy density size, but as of right now, there's still pros and cons to both. Now let's talk about what you shouldn't do for long-term battery health. First is leaving your car at a very high or very low state of charge for a long period of time. I'll have a graph on screen. I show this graph all the time. It shows the stress of the cell at different SOC and temperature. Temperature can make a pretty big difference, mainly it being hot, but as you can see, both sides of the spectrum, your battery is stressed. Next is leaving your car unplugged, and this is actually like a pretty popular topic and question that I see, especially from new owners, because they're wondering, okay, well, my car is finished charging. Let's say your daily charging percent is 70. It reaches 70. Do I go out and unplug it? No, leave it plugged in. In fact, Tesla tells you in the manual, whenever you're not driving, try to be plugged in. For one, this reduces the cycles on your car. While your car is just sitting, it's going to do system checks, BMS calibration, this and that. And if you're plugged in, it's going to pull from the wall instead of your battery. And then third, don't overthink it. Just drive the car. I wanted to put this one in here just to kind of ease some maybe like new owners or people that are looking at buying an EV. Like, yeah, you shouldn't charge your car up to 100%, let it sit. But if it happens and you don't realize it until the next morning, who cares? It's not really going to be that big of a deal. If you can't plug in every night or you can't leave the car plugged in every night, it's not that big of a deal. Like, yes, there are other things, like technically if it's super cold out and you haven't warmed up your battery, you probably shouldn't be hard accelerating, as that does stress out the battery. There's also supercharging all the time, which there's been reports that come out that say it actually doesn't really do that much, but still, technically, supercharging all the time is worse for your battery. Technically, level 2 charging is worse for your battery compared to level 1 charging, but then you gotta trickle charge, and that kind of sucks. So why would you do that? You probably would just want a little bit more degradation to be able to charge at 48 amps or 32 amps versus 1 amp. There are really only 2 or 3 things to actually care about, the 2 we just discussed and the daily state of charge, which we're about to discuss. But besides that, I mean, I'm not gonna say everything else is smoke and mirrors because it actually can affect the battery, but it's not gonna be such a discernible difference that you're even going to notice and or care and or want to change, if that makes sense. For example, trickle charging. No way I'd go back to trickle charging just because it's better for the battery. As for that daily state of charge, let's talk about how you can find your optimal daily state of charge. And it's actually quite simple. First, whenever you get the car, charge it to Tesla's recommended 80% daily. Do your daily commute. Go about your life, and at the end of every day, take 2 seconds to type in or write down your end of day state of charge. After a week, if your end of day state of charge average is over 50%, drop your charge limit to 70. Repeat every week until your end of day state of charge is around 50%. And then if you want to take it one step further, instead of tracking your end of day state of charge, track your average state of charge throughout the day. That graph I showed, that 20 to 60% range is where your battery is the least stressed. So let's say you leave for work with 70%, get to work with 50%. It uses a few percentage throughout 8 to 10 hours that you're there at work for Sentry mode. You get in, you do some errands on your way home, you get home with like 20%, right? That is perfect because a majority of the day it's spending around that 50-40% range, the least amount of stress. Then you can set a charge schedule. So let's say the car starts charging at like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. So whenever you're ready to leave at 8 a.m., it's charged up to 70%. And you do it all again. Now, I already know what some of you are thinking. What about LFP? You mentioned 100% charging, and Tesla themselves tell you to charge to 100%, right? Well, they used to. They've since updated their wording to tell you to only charge to 100% once per week. And if you're wondering why that is, like why does LFP have to do that? It's just a BMS calibration thing. Pretty much the car being able to accurately read how much range or battery it has. Technically, you should do something similar with NMC. It's just you don't have to do it as often. So with LFP, it's like, do it once a week. With NMC, it's once every 6 months to like a year. I'll typically full charge my car to 100% and then drain it really low just for BMS. Yes, charging LFP to 100 and letting it sit isn't going to be as detrimental to your battery health as doing the same with NMC, but nonetheless, you can do everything that I just mentioned when it comes to finding your own optimal daily state of charge. It's just once per week charge up to 100%. Now, as for my 2022 Model 3 Performance's battery degradation test, keep in mind that this car has a around 83 kilowatt hour Panasonic pack. That is technically NCA and not NMC, but it's still nickel based and people group the chemistries together when comparing to LFP. About 10,000 miles were from a level 1 trickle charger, and the other 10K a combination of 32 amp level 2 charging because I upgraded my home charger and supercharging. This car was also taken on road trips and vacations, Florida, the beach, Texas, pretty much all around the East Coast, single digit winters, over 90 degrees in the summer, and at 20,000 miles being charged to 50% daily, 6% degradation. Now for my 2024, which has the exact same battery pack as my 2022 did, same location, weather, the same driving profile. So how I drive the cars, I drove them exactly the same. It did have quite a bit less supercharging as we just didn't end up road tripping or vacationing with this car. And of course, it was being charged to 80% versus my 2022, which was 50%. And after 10,000 miles, it ended up with 7% degradation. Now, if you're unaware, battery degradation is not linear. You should expect from a new battery 5 to 10% drop in the first year or 10,000 miles, followed by around 1% per year thereafter. So 7% is pretty in line. It is a little interesting though that my Legacy 3 with twice the miles and more extreme variables, like I said, more supercharging, we went on road trips with it, had 1% less degradation with twice the amount of miles. But nonetheless, where are we at now?
Got the notification a few hours ago that the test had been completed, and it actually does tell you it in the app, so I already know, but let's hop in the car so you guys can see. And here we go. 89%. It's reading at 99. It was reading at 100 when it originally finished, which via the car is 286 miles.
So yeah, 11% degradation. Now I'm not going to come right out and just be like, oh, look, see, it told you so, lower state of charge equals better battery health, because, well, there are other variables, but I genuinely do think the biggest contributing factor to the less degradation on the 2022 was the lower daily state of charge. However, 11% at 20,000 miles, we just mentioned 5 to 10% in the first year or 10,000 miles, and then 1% thereafter for every year is pretty normal and nothing that I would actually be worried about. Yes, it is on the upper end of that range, but nonetheless, still normal. In fact, I don't regret it, and actually, all of my Teslas now are charged to above 50%, even though I could totally get by with 50%. Even with a level 2 home charger that could go up to 48 amps, there were still some instances when I was charging at 50% where I would have to make an impromptu trip after doing my daily commute, so I'm a little bit lower on battery, around 20 to 30%, and I just couldn't do it without stopping by a supercharger or just going home and waiting for it to charge. That's another reason why my 24.3 just didn't have as much supercharging. Also, not to mention, I buy the performance version, and the performance cars perform best at higher states of charge, and well, I bought the performance, I want to use the performance. That's another reason why I chose the 80% for the new 3. As for what I'm doing with my current cars, because at the time of this recording, I have since sold the 3. When I got the S, I decided to try out 70% because 80% still felt a little too high. Like any impromptu around my state trip I needed to make, I was still getting home with like well over 30%. And yeah, I would say 70% is much more the sweet spot for me. My S3 and even the Y pretty much all get the same range, at least how I drive them. We are getting out of the winter though. Typically during the winter, I'll charge up an extra 5 to 10% just to account for cold weather range hit. I'll probably bring the S down to like 60 or 65. Also, not to mention, it has free supercharging, a decent charging curve. So I'm a little more reluctant to be like, oh, whatever, if I need to stop and charge, it's not that big of a deal because, well, it is free. Whereas the Y, it doesn't really charge as well on the superchargers, at least right now. It's also not free, so I'll probably just keep that one at 70%. Of course, I still will utilize 50% whenever I'm going on vacation or just not going to be driving the car for over a week. I'll set it to 50% and just leave it on the charger. So if you want the best degradation, then do what we discussed. And then if you want a little bit more convenience factor, do that and then up it by like 5 to 10%. But yeah, what is your daily state of charge, and have you been able to run one of these battery degradation tests? Let me know down in the comments. With that being said, if you are new around here and you want to see more Tesla-related stuff in your YouTube feed, then feel free to subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.